wanted to get on and talk to y'all a little bit about back to school. I recently graduated from the University of Texas at San Antonio with a bachelor's in cybersecurity, so I like to pretend that I know things. But over the last couple semesters, I developed a little tips and tricks for myself that helped me with staying organized and getting everything together and just having a good workflow. And I figured I could share some of those things since it is back to school. And these are things that you can implement regardless of what level of education you're at, whether you're in high school, starting college, ending college, and these are still some things that I implement in my everyday life. So let's get started. This is my backpack that I used mainly. It's just from Amazon. It's like a canvasy material. I don't really know, but it was maybe 20-30 bucks. They have different colors. I liked this because it could store a lot, but it didn't weigh me down and it looked cute, and so I use this all the time now. But I figured this would be a really good backpack, and there's a couple other ones that are good, but having a good backpack is super important because you need something that's going to hold all your stuff but at the same time not cause any back problems and not dig into your shoulders. So speaking of that, let's get into this. First thing I want to talk about is water. There's fill-up stations all over campus and it's so important to stay hydrated, so I'd recommend getting a fillable water bottle and carrying it with you. I do have Hydro Flask as well. They are a little bit bigger. You can get different sizing, and I just think it's super important to go to cafeterias or like if they have like little restaurants and stuff and just fill up your water bottle. I was fortunate UTSA had fill-up stations at every fountain where you could just kind of like cap it, and it had the thing by the water dispenser and you could hold it against it and it would give you filtered water, so you need water. I knew that's gonna fall. I don't know how that throwing thing's gonna work. We're gonna try it out. I don't know how it's gonna work. The second thing I'd recommend is getting a charger. This is just a corded Amazon Basics one with a 5-watt adapter. I would recommend doing a 12-watt if you plan to take an iPad or anything. Plus 12-watt gives it a little bit of a supercharge, but this is a super long charger that I took everywhere with me. And so I got red so I would see it. I kind of want the pink one now, but I'd recommend taking a charger. You're on campus all day, you're at school all day, your stuff is gonna drain. Make sure that you have a backup plan and you're not stuck without your devices. Yeah, this is going great. Okay, so the next thing I want to get into is temperature. Lecture halls and university is always cold. Even high school was cold a lot, and so this is just a jacket from Pink. It's super lightweight. I liked it because it just has like this little logo and then a little bit in here, but it doesn't have pink on the back or anything. And it's super soft, super lightweight. I'd recommend taking something because, like I said, it's always really cold. And it's better to have it and not need it than need it and be freezing your butt off because you didn't bring it. So I'd recommend the jacket 100%. And next little bit that I want to talk about kind of goes into a couple different things. I would recommend taking notes and writing everything down. So the notes is a no-brainer, but this isn't like school notes. This is day-to-day notes. I took 17 hours, got very overwhelmed, and had to plan out my stuff to a point where I could just go on like autopilot mode and just do. And this helped me. I would do, trying to find a perfect example. Oh, here's a good one. So I would do stuff like this where it was 2 to 3 weeks out, and I would just list anything I had to do that week, which included school stuff as well as personal stuff. And that way I could just kind of map things out, get some assignments pushed out, and make sure I was turning everything in on time, if not early. This helps when you have a very busy schedule or you have multiple hard subjects. And I still use this day to day. Now I do it on my phone, but You can do this in here. I liked the idea of writing it out and crossing it out. It's super satisfying to me. I'd recommend that. However, if you're not someone that would benefit from that, that's okay too. But writing something down or typing it out on your phone in notes really helps with just staying organized. I used calendar on the phone, but something about writing it out and having that muscle memory just worked so much better. So I'd recommend doing this. Okay, this is working. They're not falling. So the next bit is kind of a combo. I mentioned I was a cybersecurity major, and I had a computer for most of my education, and my last year, or last full year, 2018, my computer broke. I was able to work with it a little bit, and then by fall 2018 it had completely gone out. That's the better word for it. And I wasn't ready to buy a new computer, but I did buy an iPad, which I will tell you is like a little computer because you can do so much on it. So I used my iPad so much, and I just updated it so it's not working. I used my iPad so much, and the apps that I was using that were helping me, that I would say were like the better ones, I had an app called Notability that I used a lot. And this app kind of helped with staying organized and just keeping everything in one place. So part of school is you have a bunch of journals and a bunch of notebooks, and I like the idea of doing this because not only are you saving paper, but it's all in one place. So I had network security, project management, strategic management, and a couple of my other classes all right here as like a quick reference. And I would take notes, and they would look horrible and be scribbled from lecture, and then I could come through and format them really nicely in reviews from some slides from lecture and put them in here, and it worked very seamlessly. Now, I didn't discover this until spring 2019, and I had already had a computer. It was wonderful. But between when my computer went out and finding that app to make things a little smoother, I was having to type everything up or write it down with Nebu, which is another writing app, or Microsoft Word. Now, the problem with that was there's a formatting difference between iPad operating system and PC, which is kind of to be considered. The problem was I had cyber classes that required specific formatting, but also to use applications that were only on computers. So there was a lot of time spent in the lab. But what I found that worked for me in the semester that I didn't use a computer at all, on personal device anyway, was I could go on Microsoft Word. I could type up lab notes and lecture notes with the keyboard, and then I could just go through later and reference it, or I could go through and type up notes in class so that I could look through them later. It just worked so well, and I wasn't expecting it to, honestly. I thought it was going to be kind of mediocre, but it worked so well because I was able to have something. And I know I said I did really well with muscle memory and writing things down, but I had a hard time wrapping my head around using that much paper. And I liked the idea that I didn't have to carry a bunch of different devices. I had one device that did all of it. So I would say if you don't have a computer and you can't afford one, look into an iPad or a tablet of some sort. I know they're not completely inexpensive. I know this one's gone down in price. It's just a 6th generation 9.7 iPad, but it's something I would recommend because it made a huge difference. And it wasn't that hard to carry around. It's super lightweight. It folds really nicely. It fits in here really well, and I could throw a bunch of other things in as well. Why did my thing vibrate? Oh. It's my boyfriend. He's watching American Horror Story. Finally. But the keyboard helped too. I didn't buy it until closer to fall 2018, but it was just so much easier to type than to write. Plus, that is such a satisfying sound. Not throwing the iPad yet. So another app that I used a lot, that I wasn't expecting to use a lot, was an app called Procreate. And what Procreate is basically an application that you can draw or import different images and use your Apple Pencil and color. So I did that quite often with images from the internet. But I usually found myself with 5 to 10 minute intervals between classes, and most of the time it was either in the same building, or I should say lecture hall, or across the way. I didn't have a far walk. With how UTSA was laid out, most of my classes were in one building, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 that were on a different day in a different building. So I had a couple classes where I had longer stretches of time, but I had 3 that were pretty much 10 to 15 minute intervals in between. And what I found to be super helpful was I was very stressed out in fall 2018, and I could take 5 to 10 minutes to myself and just sit and color or go get a smoothie or something. But I used Procreate so much to just kind of have that motion. I'm someone that does really well with doodling when I'm trying to pay attention, and so I could have my pencil and just have my hand doing circles or whatever it was, and it just helped me kind of focus a little bit better and focus my energy into what I was trying to learn, or just honestly relaxing and de-stressing between classes. And it's something I'd recommend, finding something that works for you, whether that's doodling, coloring, or something to just kind of help you calm down between classes, because it can be super stressful and you don't need to stress yourself out more than you're already going to be stressed. Okay, that one was cheating because I looked a little bit more. Another thing, speaking of mental health and stress, that helped me was there is an app called 10%. And what 10% is kind of a self-help meditation kind of app, where they have different ones that you can listen to that are news, great for beginners, stress, happiness, if you're on the go, focus, difficult emotions. And what helped with this was I was able to do quick little sessions when I was doodling or walking to get a smoothie. And they range from 1 minute to, there's some that are 30 minutes. I think there might be 1 or 2 that are even an hour long. And this just helped with if I had a rough test, or I had a rough lecture, or just a rough day in general, a hard day, and I was just feeling my anxiety and emotions. I could pop in some headphones, listen to maybe a minute of just focusing my energy and listen to someone talk. And some people have some really soothing voices on this app, but it just helped me personally with getting through that semester, and it's something I'd recommend. Also, another part is 10% does have a sleep section, which I still use because I just notice I get better quality sleep when I use it. And I used it a lot in the fall. I referenced this semester so much because it was very stressful, but I used it a lot in the fall because I was getting shorter amounts of sleep and I was needing what I was getting to count so much more. So it's something I'd recommend. It is a free app. It's worth the download. Try it, and if you hate it, you can always delete it. No harm, no foul. That one wasn't as bad. So, wrapping it up, guys, I would recommend the water bottle, the charger, if you have a device that you can carry with you, and then having applications installed on those devices, whether it's your phone, an iPad, tablet, what have you, that kind of just support you in maintaining stress. Because one thing to remember is just because you get a bad grade does not mean you are a bad person or that you're not intelligent. School is really hard. I failed some tests. I did well in others. Generally, I was an AB student, and I let my mental health suffer because I wanted a better grade. And I learned that if I was not taking care of myself, in the sense of taking time for myself, getting good sleep, eating properly, I could not perform. And so what I would urge you to remember this coming semester is that your mental health is way more important than a letter grade. And if you can walk away and say you understood the material, you did all you could to understand the material, and that you didn't just goof around and you actually focused on it for bits and pieces, bits of time, stretches of time, that's all you can ask of yourself. It's okay if you get an 80 something instead of an A. That's still a passing grade. It's okay if you fail an exam, as long as you seek to understand what it was that you didn't understand for the exam. I failed a Stats 3 exam with a 32, and I still walked out of the class with an A. I went to the professor after the exam, explained, I thought I did really well, this is what I studied. Can I meet with you or your TA or another student that did really well, if you can give me a name, so that I can understand what I'm missing, because clearly if I got a 32, I didn't get something. And I was able to apply what he worked with me on to the next exam, and I did fine with the end of the semester grades. So it's something that, yes, don't make it a habit, but if you are trying and you're putting forth effort and you're wanting to understand what you are doing well and what you're not doing well, that's all that can be expected of you. And I don't know, I just think school is really stressful, and it's very important to not get lost in all that it is, because that is so easy. So those are my little tips and tricks, guys. Hope you found some of this helpful. Like I said, I implement some of this in my everyday life now after school, and I figured y'all find this a little helpful. I hope you have a good semester, and remember to just relax, take it easy, you'll get through it. Bye, guys.